This is the City of Waupaca's City Plan Commission meeting.
We just want to make sure that everybody's in attendance. So let's just begin the meeting. I call this City Planning Commission meeting to order. It's Wednesday, April 1st, 2020, and it's 5:15-ish. In attendance, we have Mayor Brian Smith. We have John Kinnear. Tracy, are you on?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, Tracy Barrett, Pat Fair.
Yes.
Eric Olson. Right, Eric's here.
Yes.
And who am I missing here? Sorry.
Andrew.
Oh,
Andrew's
Alan. Okay, Alan Keelan. And so that would be all of the city planning commissioners, right?
And Justin Behrens is a voting member as well.
Oh yeah, and Justin, right? Justin Behrens. Also in attendance, we have City Administrator Aaron Jensen, and then we have planning Andrew Dane. And then I know we have a couple of guests on here too. Would you introduce yourselves again to us, please?
So let's start with the SC Swiderski crew. Can you guys go ahead and just introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Jackie Miller with SC Swiderski.
Hi, I'm April Panko with SC Swiderski.
Who else do we have on, Aaron? Is that it?
I think we have, and everyone else associated with SC Swiderski, can you please state your name? I think Justin Fromm, I believe you're on, correct?
Yep, Justin Frame with JSD, serving as project consultant to the SC Swiderski team.
Thank you. Anyone else with Swiderski?
No, that's just two of us from the team here.
Okay, thank you. And then Jeff Sanders, I believe you were on somewhere, aren't you? And Jeff may not be yet. He did know he was later on in the agenda, so he may be joining us in a little bit. Jeff Sanders, for everyone listening, is our zoning administrator.
All right. Knowing that we have a quorum and everybody actually is in attendance from the commission, you have an agenda that you downloaded from the city's website. We would need a motion to approve that. Sorry if somebody... Say it again, I'll shut up.
Eric Olson moving to approve.
Okay, we have a motion by Olson and a second by
Fair.
Second by Fair that we approve the agenda. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Against? Motion carried. I don't know if we might need to take some roll call votes later on but I think for these we're okay. These are just next up we have the minutes from the February meeting. Of course, we didn't have a meeting in March, so these are our last minutes. We had a public hearing, and then we also had the regular meeting. And unless you found something that you want to change there, we would need a motion to approve these minutes and place them on file.
This is Alan, move to approve.
Motion by Keelan.
I'll second. Second by Tracy.
Second by Tracy Barron, that we approve the minutes from the February meeting. Again, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Against? Motion carried. Before we go on to the action items, Alan, I'm having a hard time hearing you, so I'm not sure if you're a little further away or if my hearing's just poor when it comes to you. But yeah,
I'm probably as close to the computer as you are.
yeah, yeah. Am I the only one having a little problem hearing him?
It's a little far away from me as well. One
Okay.
thing that might help is if people call in through the phone instead of through the computer, it might be a little easier.
All right. Well, let's see how this works so far. We'll just know we got to listen extra well. All right, let's go right to the action items then. This has to do with the PUD for SCS Timber Ridge Apartments LLC. And we have a site plan and a final development, and also, well, those are the two items under that SCS. So Aaron, you want to, or is it Aaron or Andrew that's setting this up?
Andrew's going to take this one.
Okay.
Okay, will you bring up those documents, Aaron?
Yes, I certainly can. Let me get to the overall site plan here.
Okay, and can you, I'm always seeing like a portion of your screen. I don't know if you can maximize it. I'm just, I don't know if other folks are having the same.
People see the site map that's up right now.
Yeah, I can see it.
I can see it.
Aaron, maybe you can, over on the right-hand side, try and get rid of that too, right in the middle. Go down in the middle. Yeah, click on that. That should move it over. That should help a little more.
Yeah.
Pretty tech savvy there, Mayor.
I've had to do it the hard way, yeah.
Okay, well, let's see, I'm just catching up here from the PDF side. It's a little hard to look at all this, but I'll just introduce the memo, just kind of, I think I'm just going to do is just introduce the report we put together here, and then we could kind of get into the details on the site plan. But essentially, we are here presenting the final development plan, and as part of that, the final site plan review for the PUD, and we had some conversations back and forth. We've had a couple conference call meetings with SC Swiderski, some back and forth, and there's been some revisions of the plans based on a couple rounds of feedback that they've received. So I think, we've made some progress, and I think the team felt like we had addressed everything that needed addressing. I'm not going to go into the details of the project, since I assume people can read this or scan this. Aaron, I'm just kind of looking at at the PDF right now of the Plan Commission report document. So that's what I'm going over. It's page 6 on the PDF, kind of walking through that Plan Commission report, and then we'll get into the. So essentially, we're ultimately staff is recommending Plan Commission approve the proposed site plan contingent upon approval of the final development plan, and secondly, we're recommending the Plan Commission approve the final development plan, subject to some conditions here, and some of these I think have been addressed or can be addressed. We had some of these items. I believe item number 1, providing street names, that was addressed. Item number 2, providing details on structures, I believe that was addressed. Item number 3, I believe that was addressed, although we might have some more discussion on that. Item number 4 was a sidewalk, and again, I think that's also been addressed, but we may have some additional discussion on that. item number 5 and 6 and 7 I believe have all been addressed. We went through and kind of looked at district standards that are in the Plan Commission here. So just kind of going through each of these, again, high level, not going to get into the weeds at all, but, looking at access, we felt that those met the standards. I believe the engineer was I know one of the follow-up items was to run a truck turning template to address access into the site. And also, Justin, I believe you were going to follow up with the fire chief. So I guess, have either of those items have we followed up with those since our earlier discussions?
We do have the auto turn exhibit that we had submitted showing access through the site. We had not contacted the fire department since our conversation on Friday, but the intent being we had submitted the fire truck auto turn movements to show that the site is accessible with that template, and that can certainly be provided either through city staff, or we can have a separate follow-up as well on that front with city fire.
Okay.
So the fire truck template is being shown. It should be shared right now, if you guys can see that. It's kind of gray on gray, so it's a little tough to see, but that's what we're looking at now.
Great, thanks, Aaron.
Yep.
We again went through and felt that overall the architectural style of the buildings is consistent with the existing development in phase 1, and there's really not a lot of excuse me major concerns as far as neighbors or view sheds, but the architectural style is consistent with phase 1. Common open space was number 3. I know we talked about they did provide a common open space between a couple of the buildings, and I suggested sometime in the future that might be an appropriate place to potentially, depending on who moves in, there could be an opportunity there to do some playground equipment or other amenities for older folks, if that's the direction it goes. The density requirements were within the limits of the zoning district. We did we looked at the parking stalls and building locations, the lot sizes, maximum heights, open space allowances. All those benchmarks were met, as well as the setbacks. Skipping down to environmental review standards and design standards, we felt that again it's compatible with phase 1, especially with the open space there and avoiding the steep sloped wooded triangle. It seemed to be harmonious with existing or proposed land uses. As I mentioned before, there's minimal, I think, view shed issues with the neighbors. The buildings, I think, were pretty nicely laid out on the site plan. I personally like how they come up to the road and I think create kind of a nice sort of good walkability characteristics, having the buildings kind of up to the road with some street trees and the sidewalks. I think we create a nice kind of pedestrian environment there. We have met number 4, the accessibility with services and emergency vehicles. We've had some discussion on landscape treatment, and they came back and added some additional landscape treatments to the site plan and maybe the landscape treatments would be a good place to stop and kind of see if you wanted to, showcase, or we want to look at the site plan and have any discussion on the landscape treatments or point anything out there. I'm not sure what page that's on. I see you've got the rendering up. Aaron.
Andrew, I'm going to just go through each rendering real quick, just these were new and they were just submitted not too long ago. So I'll just go through so Plan Commission can see this, and I'll go over to the site plan. Is that all right?
Yeah. I know they added some brick to the bottom portion of the building, which we have discussed.
Would that, Eric, go back to that picture just for a second. So are we looking at that as, would that be facing Highway 54 or Fulton Street, whatever you want to call it there?
Yes, that side would be.
Okay.
One thing that they did that originally, Andrew just mentioned, they didn't have any brick on the bottom. Just as we started this a couple months ago, they did on the other side, and that was a suggestion that they have cooperated with, and they put some on this side too, just as that's facing all the traffic.
Good luck with getting it. Go ahead, Pat.
The rendering that's on the screen, does that represent 4 units, or how many units does that represent?
Yes, I believe it's 4 units, I believe, and April or Jackie, feel free to answer any of these questions too. I just don't want to make sure I'm not stating it wrong, but yes, 4 units.
I think that's probably 8, but.
This is April. Are you going to go ahead and cover that, Jackie? I'll let you go ahead and grab it.
Sorry, it is an 8-unit building, so there's 4 patios off the back side, and then there's decks off the front side for the other units. So it is an 8-unit building.
So this style on the back side is more of a townhouse style. So the lower level you're seeing with the patio door is the kitchen, dining room, and living room. And the 2 upper windows are upper unit bedrooms. So if you can go back to the front of this building, you'll see what Jackie was saying on this side. Up above the garages are the separate units up there, and that's 4 units facing the front.
Any other questions for Swiderski on any of these guys? You can see there's 2 different style of buildings. April and Jackie, I know you've probably explained this at a previous meeting, but you want to just quick run through that, the different styles and what they mean?
This is Jackie again. The first one you're looking at, this is our Ashton building. So in this building, you're either renting a lower level unit or an upper level unit. So the lower levels have the patios, the upper levels have the decks. And then the second building that we just discussed is our 8-unit building. So that's the Huntington building, and those are the ones that the back of that building, they do face the highway side. But the 2 buildings, we pick complementary siding colors, so they should look very nice on the site. And the same tan color is used on our previous phase 1, so that should blend in with that site as well.
The doors on the end of the building, what do they access?
So that is access to the mechanical rooms for the building.
This is April. They also access on the sides there to the back end units. This on the Ashton is the mechanical, but on the Huntington, there's actually entrances to the 2 backside units of those. You can't see it there. It's behind the mechanical room where the sidewalk continues.
Any other questions for the Swiderski staff? Okay, I'm going to exit out of these renderings for a sec. I'll pull up here. Andrew, is this site map sufficient for what you want to go over? Andrew, you might be on mute.
Yes, I was. I'll just finish summarizing my memo, and then I think it may be, as we dive into the site plan, we could go through and hit some of those items. I think you've got the response letter back from the project engineer. So I think as I mentioned before, the landscape treatment, we've asked for some additional landscape treatment at the entrance to the facility and street trees, and I believe all of that will be reflected in the revised site plan. The pedestrian circulation we talked about, so why don't maybe we want to bring up the site plan maybe we could kind of maybe give Justin an opportunity to address Justin Fram from JSD that put these plans together. If we've got, if we want him to chime in, we certainly can. I know you also had the letter up there, Aaron. So we could go through. Was the letter in the packet? The letter from Justin regarding all the site plan revisions, was that in the packet?
The one we're looking at. The one we're looking at right now.
Right now, I'm seeing the site plan up on the screen.
Okay. The one with the red comments, I believe we received that later, so it was not. It's something we went through staff quite a bit after the packet went out.
Gotcha. Okay, so these were the sort of punch list items we already sort of went over. Why don't you bring up the site plan, the landscape plan, and we can give people an opportunity to, from the Plan Commission to, if they want to ask any questions of Justin, maybe bring up that landscape plan.
Page 34 and 35 of the PDF.
Okay, Justin from Fram, would you like to go through some of this?
Sure, I can give a brief overview. Maybe I'll just touch on the changes that we've made in response to the comments that we had received and the discussions we had with staff here as of late. The buildings are oriented in a parallel nature, have rear access to the garage doors, and I think the units themselves were touched on by the SC Swiderski team. Really, our changes were to improve access to the trash enclosure. So you'll see that the trash enclosure in the original plan set is shown on the southern edge of the private drive. That has been moved to the end of that drive, or the east edge of that drive, for ease of access and for turning movements for trash enclosure. Additionally, we've made a few adjustments to this plan in that the narrow strips of landscape separating the unit breaks in the building foundation have been removed. These just weren't functioning real well from a maintenance and from a usability standpoint, so those have been removed. We've made some adjustments to the foundation landscape, and we've also made a replacement on one of the maple selections we had for a selection that is on the city's approved or recommended tree list. Additionally, there's been additional information provided on the signage, as well as the trash enclosures surround and the mail hut, as it's termed on the site plan, which is would be just east of these two larger building footprints to the north. In response to the comments that were provided, many of the items were, plan annotation in nature that have been picked up from the plan set that is shown on the screen. What else? Additionally, we added the auto turn exhibit to show access through the site to make sure that the driveways were working from a fire truck template standpoint. We've provided some additional information in Stone Ridge Drive, as there is a vertical curve between the two buildings relative to the grade, basically at the central open space or between the two larger footprints to the north along Stone Ridge Drive. That was a comment from the consulting engineer at Strand. We provided that with this latest set to show the transition space on Stone Ridge Drive. These buildings are stepped, so initially we looked at a linear footprint, and based on grade and based on an earthwork analysis, these buildings will be stepped to follow the street grade and create a smooth transition along Stone Ridge Drive, pretty much from east to west, right to left, as you can see on the plan view. Those were the major items that we've addressed from the initial submittal to what we've provided here as of late, per our discussions with staff and with the team. We feel that the plan set is addressing all of those items. There are a few additional technical items to be addressed, specifically an easement related to the sanitary sewer laterals that are serving two buildings off of one lateral and will become public. We had a discussion on that and are aware that would become public. We'd have to administer an easement for that space, and we would propose to do that via a legal description and exhibit and a recording instrument at the county to administer that easement for public maintenance of the sanitary sewer lateral serving those buildings. So that's something we're aware of. But all in all, we feel it's a balanced site. We've paid close attention to access, grade relative to State Highway 54 and Stone Ridge Drive, driveway alignments, so access alignment. The easterly access point has been pulled north in order to increase the throat length on Stone Ridge Drive off of 54. Landscape plan is balanced, a combination of open space tree placement to provide some screening and shade to some of the stoop and balcony areas, as well as foundation treatment for all of the foundation areas that are devoted to landscape, and as well as some detail around the mail location, signage location, and trash location. We feel it's a pretty balanced plan. We've had a lot of great input from staff and the team, and have made some minor changes here as of late that have bettered the plan in response to comments we've received and discussions we've had with staff. So any questions, I'm certainly available to answer any questions on any of the details that you may have.
Doesn't sound like there's any questions. Justin Behrens, I don't know if you want to add anything to that or not, but I think the other Justin covered it pretty well.
Yeah, I got a quick question on the stepped buildings. This is John Kinnear. When you say these buildings are stepped, we're looking at renderings and elevations that show a level building plane. Where do they step, and how many vertical feet or inches are we talking about between each step? And then where is that handled? Is that on the foundation itself? Do we have a constant stone line and a constant roof line throughout the building, and then it's picked up at the foundation level, so there's maybe more stone at the bottom?
So I'll relate the site component to this. We have, so the only two buildings that are stepped are the two Ashton buildings, which are the two northerly larger footprints fronting Stone Ridge Drive. Those each have 2 steps, and they are 1 foot each. They're basically, for more or less, they are equidistant, splitting the building into 3 modules. They're handled at the split of the driveway between the garage doors on the front and rear. So there will be a transition taper on that asphalt that comes from garage door to garage door, picking up that foot. We elected to do 2 1-foot splits versus 1 2-foot split. From a standpoint, we felt it was more consistent along the foundation, and we weren't introducing retaining walls and a steeper transition that would create issues from a access, usability, safety standpoint. I'll look to the SC Swiderski team to confirm the material component relative to those transitions and the rendering showing it as a singular level.
Thank you, Justin. This is April. Basically, how the construction team has looked at it, in the beginning when those renderings were done, we did not do the transition point because we weren't 100% sure where we were going to make that split due to site elevations and that type of situation. So that's why you're seeing level buildings. Basically, what has been talked about here is that where the splits will occur is at the garage points on the building. So if you're looking at that rendering, there's, like Justin was explaining, there's 2 1-foot drops to transition. So we'll adjust that with interior wall heights being higher, also having to make some transition inside those garages for mechanical chases that we have. And then they will be adjusted either by thickened slabs and some framing material. These buildings will be panelized. That's the plan at this point. So we'll just be making adjustments with that aspect.
Right. So the roof line will remain constant. The balconies will all be at the same elevation, and then the only thing we'll see from 54 is really that stepped. The garage doors will actually step down at those 2 transition points per building. Correct?
From what I'm understanding, that is correct. And you will see, obviously, the one that's closer to the east more on 54. The one behind it, obviously, will be a little bit shadowed from those other Huntington buildings. I can confirm that if we want some more information on that I can send out to the city team. But that is my understanding on that aspect.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have any other questions on this site plan here? So our next step then is to talk about the final development plan, or has that been included in what we're talking about here?
It's kind of part and parcel of it. We've went through that preliminary development plan review. We've already addressed the rationale for the project and the justification for the rezoning. We've addressed that in the previous meetings and documentation. So essentially right now we're really just talking primarily about the site plan. I guess the one other issue I think we should bring up, just to mention relative to site plan, and just so there's no surprises and everybody's comfortable with it. We did spend quite a bit of time talking about sidewalks and pedestrian circulation and access, between the different phases of development and the different components of phase 2. Aaron, I don't know if you can slide the viewer over so we can sort of see that intersection.
These are whole pages, so we'd have to find a different page here, which I can scroll through. See if I can find something.
Maybe Justin Fram, would you know what page on the which plan set?
What item are you looking for in particular?
I was just the best sheet to have a discussion around the sidewalks and kind of pedestrian connectivity.
Maybe right here. I think this is probably right.
Yeah, that's the landscape plan. That shows the overall both parcels. That would probably work well.
Okay. Yeah, maybe you could just slide it over and zoom in a little bit there, Aaron. And I just want to make sure everybody's comfortable with where we ended up relative to sidewalks. And we have some grade issues that kind of made introducing additional sidewalks somewhat challenging. And so what we've got here are a pedestrian crosswalk and a new sidewalk connection running sort of north to phase 1. And then obviously we've got, sidewalk all the way paralleling Stone Ridge Road, looping all the way back around to the to 54 and the River's Edge Trail, I think you call that, with the existing sidewalk out there. But because of the grade change and some of the other challenges here, we don't have sidewalk, connecting the balance of the buildings there. But the Swiderski folks, like I said, part of that was driven by the topography challenges, but also, the Swiderski folks did share with us that in most of their developments like this, people are, oftentimes, there's not a lot of traffic. Oftentimes people are comfortable out walking on the road here. So this is kind of where we ended up, I think, as far as the pedestrian circulation. I don't know, Justin Behrens from the city, if you had anything else you wanted to add on that.
No, I think you pretty much summed it up, Andrew. I don't know what more I could really add to it.
Yeah. Did anybody have any, questions or concerns about that? I know it's not ideal. Ideally we'd like sidewalks, continuous sidewalk connections between all the facilities, but given this site and the topography, we are adding a sidewalk connection, several sidewalk connections, but given the topography and the site conditions, I guess the staff felt it was the existing plan was adequate.
So the idea is that people will be using the road as a pedestrian walkway. And remind me again how wide the road is. Is it a narrower than normal road, or wider, or just a regular road?
Currently, it's a 26-foot width from curb to curb, which matches the originally approved plans and matches the entrance that is currently constructed off of 54 at 26 feet.
Okay, and parking is going to be allowed to be on the road?
In our current discussions, the southern edge of Stone Ridge Drive has a number of driveways, and I think there's a zoning preclusion, not parking within 3 feet of any driveway on a public roadway. So currently, our understanding is that the parking will likely be restricted on the southern edge of Stone Ridge Drive. However, will be allowed on the northern edge of Stone Ridge Drive.
So I just want to make sure that we understand here. Justin Behrens, the complex that are going out at the airport, do they have sidewalks?
No, there is not sidewalks along or bordering Commercial and Webster. We have an agreement though set in place with them. In the future, when we want to extend sidewalks, basically it's going to go through. So there's a separate agreement out there that we agreed not to install the sidewalks right away. So comparably, this development is showing sidewalks on one side of the road. To try and get it on both is going to be a bit of an issue as far as the grade changes wise. Our ordinance does allow it on just one side. So the Stone Ridge Road is, I wouldn't say it's a narrow road, but it's not wide. And I think it's, everyone agrees, and myself, Strand, that it'll function and provide basically vehicle traffic and pedestrian traffic to kind of commingle in the same spot, and it should be fine the way it's configured, the way it's designed.
Okay. Anything, Andrew, you were leading this one on the sidewalk and so anything else you want to add there?
Well, I guess the last thing would be, and I don't know, Aaron, if you can zoom in a little bit on this, but I know we have a crosswalk, again, connecting sort of phase 1 and phase 2 there. Are we, I just want to be clear in my own head on this. Are we going to be striped? Is that going to be striped? Is that going to be, and what about the cross? Is there going to be any striping done at the right where the cursor is at the egress points? Is there going to be striping done right up at that intersection? Will there be a crosswalk here? I just not entirely clear to me. I guess what I'm seeing is no. There's no designated crosswalk right there. Will there be striping at the other crosswalk connecting to the north?
To answer your question on the current plan, so the eastern driveway does not. That kind of relates to the grading constraints we have there right now. That's an 8% cross slope on that roadway. So, and which is not ADA, and it's not connecting to any sort of sidewalk on the north and east side of that intersection. On the north connection of the existing sidewalks, we do not currently have a stripe, but that is an existing connection right now.
And can you show? Are you talking about further to the west there?
Yeah, the one that'd be basically at the northeast really corner of the east building footprint. It's a little bit faint, but it's an existing condition that shows the sidewalk tapers and the receiving sections of those sidewalks across Stone Ridge Drive now. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I see that. So I guess that's all I had. Is that kind of summarizes our staff discussion and back and forth with the Swiderski team. Anything else, I guess, Justin or Aaron, that you guys wanted to add?
I think you guys covered it.
I'm good.
All right, so the action that we're looking for here is actually there are 3 items that I think we can take all with one motion because we discussed it all together. So it would be hard to separate which is which at this time. But basically, we're looking at approving the plan unit development, the site plan review, and then the final development plan review. So at this time, unless we have any more questions, I'd be looking for a motion to approve.
I will make that motion. That one.
Motion by Keelan.
Second.
Sorry, say your name.
Second by Fair.
Second by Fair, that we approve the PUD, the site plan review, and the final development plan review. Again, I'm just gonna do, the normal vote here. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Against? All right, motion carries unanimously. All right, thanks a lot, all of you that are from SCS.
Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We going to talk about the annexation on Grand Seasons Drive.
Is
This
now
where-
exiting.
Aaron, is this you or Andrew here?
This is actually Justin.
All right, well, I'm sorry.
All right, I'll take it. If you're following along at home, we're on page 86 of the packet. Can you guys hear me right?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, so you have an executive summary in here. This is for Fable Trucking, which, if you're familiar with the area, you'll know it's on Grand Seasons Drive. It's currently outside of the city, but they want to annex in. So obviously we have the annexation request. Andrew and Rhonda helped put this together for all of us. What they're looking to do is come into the city. They need to have an expansion project coming up here. So doing the analysis, we annex in, this property will be contiguous, so it meets that. It satisfies our sewer service area, so we don't need to do anything in particular with that. Water and sewer are present within the road, so there is a deferred assessment from back in the 80s on this property. There's a couple other stipulations that have to go along with the annexation. For the next 5 years, the taxes that would be paid to the town have to be paid from someone else, and then this the property owner. And that was all included in the annexation forms to the state. This, like I said, is part of an expansion project. Once it gets annexed into the city, it will get in a permanent zone or immediate zoning of agricultural, and we can't allow that, or certainly we want to make that fit. So in the future, we're going to have a zoning change, and that's going to be coming through, and that'll be zoned B4. Everything around there, that area fits B4, and that best fits what they want to do out there with their operation. They're going to eventually get a special use permit and then a site plan review. So this is a pretty decent sized project, looking to do a 15,000 square foot expansion. I think their existing building is about 5,000. It's going to be good for them and for us as the city. So once this is approved, this is actually a recommendation to City Council. I think that pretty much wraps it up.
Hey, Justin, this is John. Just a quick question on the property. When it does come into city and it has zoning requirements, is there any risk of non-conforming structures or anything like that while they do their expansion?
No, we don't believe so. They have just the one main building there. They don't have any minor or secondary buildings. I think with the analysis, that's the best fit, and I don't think we'd be creating any future issues.
Thank you.
Yep.
So they don't have a fuel farm or anything like that is part of that question, I would think, too.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay.
Justin, what would have to come first before they begin construction? Will they have to rezone, or can they start construction before rezoning?
No, they cannot start constructing before this whole process. So the annexation, the zoning, the special use permit, and the site plan review, we're going to do that basically all currently or at the same time. The annexation, see, I have, if you people that have the video, got this big spreadsheet here we got laid out. We shared it with the owner and the engineer that's involved with the project. It kind of lays out this timeline showing the annexation is going to be done. Then we have zoning and the site plan review. So basically, when this whole thing's complete, which would be June 2nd, then they can start breaking ground. And they'll have a zoning. We'll give them approval of their plan right here at plan, and then they can start construction.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
So, and you can see this on your agenda, obviously. This needs to be done, the annexation needs to be done in ordinance form. So what we would be doing is recommending that this ordinance go forward to the city council, and then obviously it has to follow the rules that city council has set up, where you have to have a first and second reading before you approve it. And I guess I'm pretty sure, even though it doesn't say this, we need to have a public hearing too.
Yes, correct.
Okay, and are we setting that public hearing? Is city planning setting that public hearing, or are we just doing that administratively?
We can do it administratively.
Okay. All right. So unless there's any other questions on this annexation, we'd be just looking at a recommendation to council for this annexation in the form of ordinance number 04-20.
Olson will move that. 1 second.
Motion by Olson, second by Keelan, that we recommend to council the annexation of N3303 Grand Seasons Drive in this, and also recommend moving forward with ordinance number 04-20. Any further discussion?
Brian?
Yes, sir.
Is there any pushback from Farmington, or do they have to be notified on this?
Well, as Justin said, under the current law, somebody has to pay them for 5 years of property tax. That is within our boundaries. I can't remember what they call that, where, we are, I guess, allowed to annex property. Any more you can add on that, Justin or Andrew or Aaron?
Yeah, I can. So they will be notified, but it's following state statute. So even if they don't like it, I don't know if there's any way they can stop it.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody, any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Awesome, I heard them all. Motion carries unanimously. All right, next up then we have, as a discussion item, we have the comprehensive plan and zoning code update. I'm assuming this is Andrew and Jeff Sanders. You guys are teaming this up here?
Sure. I'm going to talk on the comprehensive plan section, specifically the housing chapter.
Okay.
Why don't we go through the housing chapter first, Andrew, and then we will touch on the new plan for the zoning code update. Does that sound good?
That sounds good. And were you going to lead that discussion, or Jeff, or did you want me to handle the zoning as well?
Jeff is going to touch on the zoning.
Okay, great. All right. So housing chapter, we have a draft housing chapter And as I mentioned before, we're a little, we're still following our timeline. We're maybe slightly behind schedule with some of the changes here, but the intent, as I mentioned before, is to come forward each month with a chapter or two. And so each of these chapters you'll get at least a couple cracks at. I've got it tentatively, the plan sort of tentatively divided up into 7 or 8 different kind of functional chapters there that Aaron's scrolling by, and decided to sort of chew off housing and neighborhoods first, and then the land use will probably be diving into land use and for the next chapter, so that we can integrate that in with the update to the zoning code. Housing, I'm just going to give a real brief update. We've shared in previous meetings some of the dynamics and trends relative to housing, so I'm not going to really belabor that too much. We did a survey, the public survey. We did get quite a few responses on housing, and we've reviewed. We have had some focus groups with some business leaders, community leaders. The topic of housing has come up, and so, and then finally, I'm working on a updated market study. So I'm pulling together some market data on housing that I'll be able to share at our next meeting. But essentially, with a lot of that information that we've received, myself and Aaron, and again with input from some of these stakeholder groups, have fleshed out the following strategies and actions that would make up this chapter. So each of these chapters, as I mentioned before, we're going towards a little bit more simpler architecture in terms of how this is set up. So for each chapter, we'll have a couple goals, which are probably listed a little higher up. You don't need to scroll up there necessarily, Aaron, but we have got a couple goals for each of the chapters. And then we have strategies and actions. Aaron, actually, yeah, why don't you page up just one page? The goals listed up there. We'll just read that off. Maybe it's that. The hell did I put up? Okay. Encourage development and maintenance of workforce and market rate housing. Support strong neighborhoods where people take pride in their homes and look after their neighbors. So we've got sort of 2 broad brush sort of overall goals for the chapter. And then you can scroll back down, Aaron. And then we put together 5 strategies. So the first strategy was identifying and filling information gaps, and marketing Waupaca as a highly desirable place to live. So we want to continue, and then some of the action items are listed underneath those. And we did talk about perhaps doing a more detailed housing study in the future if that's warranted. But I think we're going to have a lot of information from the market study and from this comprehensive plan to sort of keep us focused or give us some good direction for the next couple of years. We want to take the results of the market study, however, and identify and prioritize target markets for attracting new residents, and then also develop a marketing plan to attract new residents. And we know that also goes hand in hand with the needs of local employers. I want you to jump down to the next strategy. Strategy 2, preserve the existing housing stock. So here you have a few housing programs out there that are being administered both through CAP services as well as through the Juneau County Housing Authority administers a revolving loan fund using CDBG dollars, and residents are eligible for that. USDA Rural Development also has homeowner repair programs that the city residents are eligible for. So one of our strategies is just to partner up more proactively with some of these other agencies and expand those programs and market those programs so more people are aware of them. And rather than go out and try to start the city's own home repair program, given a lot of the complexities with federal funding and the CDBG program, it probably just makes more sense to partner with Habitat, partner with USDA Rural Development, partner with Juneau County Housing Authority that administers the Central Wisconsin Housing Repair Program, partner with those agencies more effectively and get the word out. We also identified continuing to support Rock the Block and other initiatives like that. Are great kind of high visibility, high impact programs to support, help preserve the existing housing stock. The next strategy, stimulate new workforce and market rate housing developments. We've heard that there's really a strong desire to get new, and if you look at you know, as you go back and look at when the housing was built, you know, older community like Waupaca, you have an aging housing stock. And so there's always a need to continue to invest and replace and bring new housing into the market as some of it becomes obsolescent. So we know that TIF is an incentive. We've talked about that, how that might get used to support additional housing development. One of the big recommendations here, I think it not only touches on housing, but also economic development, is 3B. So looking at potentially establishing a community development authority that could pull in some of your business leaders and could help us not only give direction to economic development, but also housing recommendations. So we can pull in some people with expertise in these areas. And I think that would be a real nice next step to implement some of the strategies in this plan. 3C, supporting new residential infill adjacent commercial districts. So I think about Fulton, think about downtown, think about Churchill Street. All those areas have some parcels that could lend themselves very nicely to infill housing. Parcels that are currently underutilized or vacant. And the nice thing there is you kind of get a double, you know, bang for your buck. I mean, one, you're building on pre-existing land where you already have the infrastructure, but then you're also basically introducing more customers to support local businesses within those districts. So I'm really excited about 3C, and I think we have some great opportunities to do that on Fulton Street and downtown, and perhaps even Churchill Street. So 3D, market housing development opportunities. Again, we've already had some additional interest from a multifamily developer out of Green Bay. I know there's some other multifamily developers in town, but we put together a map with Rhonda to sort of identify housing infill opportunity areas, and we've had some discussions with both some market rate as well as affordable tax credit housing developers. So I think once we get this, as we move forward, we've got the opportunity, I think, to really get some additional housing developments in the pipeline. 3E was essentially looking at partnering with some of the existing sort of real estate industry partners to market and incentivize some parcels for new development. So we know in that Eastgate subdivision that CAP Services has something like 63 lots available. There's some other areas where the city or the county has some lots available that were foreclosed on. So one of our strategies here is to look at maybe creating some incentives for local realtors to help us market and get those properties developed. 3F was creating and marketing a Why Waupaca brochure. So this is really, again, we've heard this from the realtors, we've heard this from a lot of folks, and we're in a great position, I think, to do it with the branding work that's been done. But it's kind of why Waupaca, what's the value proposition? The tax rate's going down, but it's difficult. It will probably be difficult to get the tax rate all the way down to the surrounding towns because you're a city and you've got more services. So what's the value proposition? And we want to give some more thought to that compelling reason why live in Waupaca. Strategy 4, Aaron and I talked about the other day, and this may need a little bit more fleshing out. Maybe some folks have some suggestions. but increasing home ownership. We know in the past, over time, the city's percentage of home ownership has declined. More recently, it's kind of ticked up a percentage point or two in the last couple of years. But, you know, there's no magic number. I think right now you're at like 55-45, but, you know, there's probably an opportunity to think strategically about your neighborhoods and some of the different areas in town, and maybe if we're encouraging home ownership and perhaps creating an employer-assisted homebuyer program or a new homebuyer program, perhaps we can target, you know, create opportunities to introduce home ownership into some neighborhoods where maybe it's lacking. And then finally, number 5 was strengthening existing neighborhoods, and this was really, you know, the rest of the sort of piece, besides the sort of physical, you know, how can we continue to provide effective code enforcement? In the survey, there was a lot of comments on code enforcement, and I know in the past, you know, the code enforcement, you know, tends to be one of those issues. It's a challenge for all communities to deal with, and as different, you know, leadership teams and elected officials come on board, you know, you have an opportunity to relook at code enforcement. So I think what we're suggesting here is really refining and improving the current program. You have a fairly good program in the sense that you do have a code enforcement officer, and you've got a tracking system in place to efficiently deal with code enforcement issues. But we also want to engage the neighborhoods and engage neighborhood partners. There's a pilot initiative going on with a group called Neighborhood Partners, a nonprofit, as well as Theta Care, trying to create some neighborhood identity and some neighborhood. I believe they're trying to launch a program to get neighbors to nominate their neighbors for their keeping their house or their landscapes nice. So we want to not only use the stick approach, but also the carrot approach, and try to build up the neighborhoods and encourage people to just go out and take care of those things without having to be given a ticket. And then 5B is, you know, looking at variety of housing types. One of the things that came up in the survey again, which I think is really dovetails nicely with a lot of the trends we're seeing, is just an interest in diversifying the mix of housing types out there. So not just single family, not just, you know, stacked flats apartments, but, you know, are there additional condos, duplex, fourplex? Are there senior housing opportunities? So we want to look at, as we update the zoning code, we want to make sure that we're allowing a flexibility of housing types. And then finally, create a neighborhoods program. I kind of briefly touched on that on my way through here, but you know, one of the actions may be to, you know, look at what a neighborhoods program would look like for the city. You know, it doesn't have to be super fancy. Maybe it's an awards program. Maybe there's you know, some neighborhood beautification efforts that can be done. Maybe there's an opportunity to take the Rock the Block initiative and roll that out, you know, instead of every 10 years or so. Maybe that something like that could be done around the city, you know, every other year for a few years. So we want to look at creating a neighborhoods program as well. And that is my recap of the housing chapter. And if anybody from the Plan Commission has any, I guess, feedback on that specifically, or general comments they want to make about housing, love to hear them.
Anybody? Any comments at this time? Andrew, what do you, you know, it says draft on here, so it makes me think, you know, what's the next step with this report that you gave us? Has this become part of our future plan, or does it?
Yeah, so this chapter, this is really just part of the update to the comprehensive plan that we're going to be working on this year. So we'll each month, and my thought is I bring it forward, I introduce it, perhaps we have a little discussion about it. We'll come back again next meeting and there will be another opportunity, another kick at the can if Plan Commission, has, come up with some other ideas or would like to see something changed. So we'll work our way through the process. By the end of the year, by this fall, we'll have a draft comprehensive plan, including all those chapters, and we'll present, those will get presented to the public in some format, and then ultimately, adopted by Plan Commission and the council.
All right. Well, as I listen to you and read through this, you put a lot of work into this, and I think it really does describe Waupaca and what our future might lie. So, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so are we ready for Jeff then?
Yeah, I think so. Jeff, if you're ready.
I am. Good evening, everyone. Mr. Mayor.
Hey, Jeff.
Andrew, Aaron, can you bring up that brief 2-paragraph summary of our current situation?
I can, I believe. At least I thought it was open somewhere. Sec.
That's right. I can start talking about it before it comes up.
I'll get it up. Just, yeah, go ahead and start talking. I'll find it here.
All right. So for obvious reasons, everybody's aware that we had to pull the plug on the March 16th stakeholder workshop. And in the process of updating the zoning ordinance, we had scheduled 4 specific meetings running generally concurrent with the process of updating the comp plan that Andrew's been talking about. We had the stakeholder workshop followed by a working session, a first draft presentation, and then finally a public hearing. The 5th meeting not listed would be at some point city council saying, yep, this is what we want, and hopefully moving forward with adoption. For reasons associated with the health emergency, we decided that stakeholder workshop just wasn't going to go. So one of the discussions that Aaron and Andrew and I had was just kind of pushing everything back and staying with the same schedule, albeit a little bit later. The difficulty we found there is we're bumping into a number of issues with the current zoning code, non-compliance with state statutes, some contradictions within the code itself that are proving to be potentially problematic. So the 3 of us felt that by foregoing the stakeholder workshop, melding or molding some of the elements of it into the working session, we could actually get on with the process of developing this draft ordinance, bring it before the Plan Commission during this working session, figure out what you as a commission like and don't like, and then hopefully get us to a point where sometime mid-summer we would have an ordinance ready for adoption. Now, as Andrew alluded to in previous meetings, and he may have said tonight, I prioritized elements of the comp plan that are relevant to the update of this.
Did everyone lose him or just me?
I lost him.
I lost them. Me too.
I'll text him quick.
Well, we can just, I see you've got it up here.
Yeah, go ahead, Andrew, if you want to go through
well,
it.
I mean, I think he's pretty much kind of walked us through it here. Our thought was to continue moving forward, and I think given all the feedback we've already received, it seems like a reasonable process to move forward with. So essentially, we take all the information we've gathered and the public input and the feedback, and we start putting this draft ordinance together and fold the discussion phase into that meeting that we had tentatively scheduled for May 18th. And I think, given the fact we've already been out there, quite honestly, we've been talking about updating the zoning code for several years. I suspect, coming forward with a draft of something for people to react to will probably be, beneficial and a good way to move forward without, losing too much time in the process, and it'll give people a little bit something more to react to at that moment in time.
Does anyone on Plan Commission have any thoughts about that revised plan?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So,
It's kind of, of course, you know, if we would have had that meeting a week earlier, we could have had it, or if we would have had it scheduled a week earlier, we could have had it, and then the pandemic hit. So better safe than sorry, but I think it's a good plan moving forward.
okay. So anything else on the zoning code or comprehensive plan?
To do it.
Covered it.
Okay, let's move on then to the reports. We have the February and March 2020 building permits, and then the code enforcement status report, and also the development update. Andrew, is that you also?
I can just say a couple things. Nothing abnormal about the building or code enforcement reports. Pretty standard for the last couple of months. I know we didn't have Plan Commission a month ago. Some of the economic development, obviously, we will, you know, with our COVID-19 situation, we'll see what happens over the next few months. But some of our larger projects are still moving forward. I think everyone knows that construction is obviously an essential function here, and everything with Foundry and Gusmer are moving along as expected. We do have a request in that will come to council. Mayor Smith and I and our finance director, Kathy Kaza, have been talking about that. That's a par 4 who's looking to possibly get some TIF incentive for a 30-room expansion on that property, as well as a banquet hall. So that's something we're working through and working with our financial advisors on how to best structure that. And those are kind of the hot items right now. Everything else, there are some other things going on, but we will leave that to a future meeting as things progress.
Aaron,
Right.
anything new on Ruby's Pantry?
No, Pat, that will all be taken care of. Well, you know what? I will speak to that a little bit. You know, that's going to be taken care of as a part of this whole zoning code update. And there will come a time where we make a decision on do we want that use in that location. One thing I will say, and you'll likely hear more from Ruby's Pantry, is they have approached me about a clinic type setup. It's a free clinic, salon, dentist work. It's a model that they have in Luck, Wisconsin right now. And it's basically free services in all of those areas I just mentioned. And they would plan to run that out of that location that you're referring to on West Fulton Street, if that was something that the community wanted, if it was something council wanted. Now, that changes our conversation a little bit, just because I know that was primarily going to be used for distribution, you know, across the county or a larger area, you know, I guess. And then the question becomes, how does a facility like that, where there might be free health care, there might be free dentist care for the people who need it, you know, how do we feel like that serves our area? So that's been something they've approached me with. They've given me a quick 1.5 pager on it, but I think before I get too far on this, they want to come to a plan commission and eventually a council meeting in the next couple months. I think we're open to do it in a normal setting, and obviously it doesn't maybe look like we're going to be able to do that, but you'll be hearing from them soon.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Anything else under the reports? Before we adjourn, I just want to make a couple of comments to you. One is that obviously we've had to change how we are handling this meeting, and probably all meetings that you're involved in, for some time here. So we could use your feedback if you could suggest, if you could think of anything that we might be able to do to change, or things that you didn't like about what we did tonight, or things that you did like about it and you would like us to continue it that way too. That would be great. We're also going to take advantage of doing a questionnaire type thing. I don't know if we'll have it ready for this meeting, but in the future, we're going to, when we finish these meetings, we're going to request that you complete a questionnaire, and that will help us again to continue these meetings and make them better each time. So anything as far as this virtual meeting tonight that anybody would like to make a comment about?
Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is Andrew. I just one thought I had. I had brought up in the meeting, there's this little chat box. Where you click on it, it's like a comment thing, show conversation, and then it says type in new message. And one thought I had as we were running the meeting tonight was it's a little hard, obviously, to use verbal cues or to raise your hand, you know, if you want to say something or would like to, you know, make a motion or something. But I thought perhaps that chat box would be a good place. If whoever's running the meeting is monitoring the chat box, perhaps that's a good location for participants to, you know, raise their hand or something along those lines.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly why it's there. So, yeah, thank you for that. Anything else for the good of the meeting? All right, we're looking for an adjournment.
Move to adjourn. This one, Keelan.
Motion by Keelan.
Olson, second.
Second by Olson, that we adjourn till our next regular meeting. All in
So-
favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right, we are adjourned at 6:40 p.m.